For this week's episode, Patreon sponsor Jack Bowman requested a look at one of the great Decepticon leaders of years past. There'll be no mercy dispensed in the basics on Lord STRAXUS. STRAXUS was an original character created by writer Bob Budiansky and artist Don Perlin for the original Transformers comic book published by Marvel. Introduced in a two-part story in issues 17 and 18 of the comic in 1986, STRAXUS was the leader of the Decepticons on Cybertron, who had risen to power while Megatron was stranded on Earth. Ruling from his fortress Darkmount, he was a cruel and brutal tyrant, who was armed with a signature pickaxe weapon and transformed into a flying cannon. When the Decepticons on Earth re-established contact with Cybertron, STRAXUS began construction of a space bridge that would link the two planets. An Autobot resistance unit interfered, leading to a battle between STRAXUS and the Autobot Blaster, which ended when Blaster destabilized the bridge and kicked STRAXUS through it, destroying him. Now, as far as Budiansky was concerned, that was the end for STRAXUS. But the following year, British writer Simon Furman brought the character back to star in new stories exclusive to the United Kingdom's version of the comic. Furman revealed that while STRAXUS's body had been destroyed, his head had survived and was being kept alive by a life support system. To replace the body he had lost, the treacherous STRAXUS attempted to transfer his mind into Megatron's body and take it for his own. But Megatron resisted the process and destroyed STRAXUS's head in revenge. Once again, STRAXUS appeared dead. But future stories revealed that once again, that wasn't the case. STRAXUS had a contingency plan. He had created a clone of Megatron, into which his mind was able to escape after the transfer failed. Unfortunately for STRAXUS, however, the clone was activated prematurely after the real Megatron disappeared in a space bridge accident before STRAXUS was able to take full control of its mind and body. It was this clone who appeared in the comic for the next 2 years, his true nature unknown both to himself and to the comic's readers who believed that he was the real Megatron. With STRAXUS's consciousness eating away at his mind from within, still trying to take over, the clone was slowly driven insane. It was only when the real Megatron finally returned that the truth was exposed, whereupon STRAXUS made one final effort to seize control of the clone's body. Refusing to allow STRAXUS victory, the clone committed suicide, finally ending STRAXUS's life along with his own. As an original character created for the comic who wasn't represented in the toy line, STRAXUS would remain relatively obscure, and wouldn't reappear in any new media for nearly 20 years, until 2008, when Simon Furman revisited the character in the new continuity of IDW Publishing's comic books. The IDW version of STRAXUS was an ancient Cybertronian, part of a crew led by Nova Prime, who left Cybertron in search of new worlds to conquer. Sucked through a wormhole into a sinister alternate dimension known as the Dead Universe, the crew became undead beings who sought to have the dead universe consume the living one. STRAXUS attacked Earth to harvest Energon to power the process, but when the Autobots successfully closed the wormhole to the Dead Universe, STRAXUS was cut off from its power and simply dropped dead. STRAXUS almost made the jump to television in 2009, when a version of him was designed for the Transformers animated cartoon. STRAXUS was intended to appear in a flashback to the war on Cybertron in the 3rd season of the show, but sadly, the scene was cut for time. Though denied a TV debut, STRAXUS passed an even bigger milestone in 2010, when the very first toy of him was released in the Transformers Generations line. The name STRAXUS wasn't available to trademark, however, so the figure was instead sold under the name Darkmount, taken from his old fortress. It transformed into both a self-propelled artillery vehicle and an artillery emplacement, and even came with STRAXUS's classic pickaxe weapon. In 2012, this figure was recolored by the Transformers Collectors Club to become a heroic version of STRAXUS from the mirror universe of Shattered Glass, where he was a playwright and poet known as the Bard of Darkmount. 2012 also saw the release of the second figure of STRAXUS in the Japanese Transformers United EX toy line. A recolor of the Decepticon Ice Pick from the Power Core Combiners toy line, this STRAXUS transformed into a snowplow and was sold under the name Rollermaster. Like all figures in this series, he could combine with 4 Power Core drones into a larger Prime mode. The story of the United EX toy line, set within the continuity of the original Transformers animated series, hinted that this was the STRAXUS from the Marvel comic, who had somehow travelled across the multiverse into the cartoon universe, where he joined up with the Decepticons under the command of the High Regent STRAXUS and helped steal Power Core combination technology from the Autobots. The subsequent manga Metro Wars and Transformers Legends would go on to depict this STRAXUS as briefly taking control of the Decepticons by subduing and brainwashing Megatron, attacking the Autobots with the giant Metro Titan until he was defeated by the Autobot city Metroplex. The 2010s have also seen STRAXUS make an assortment of scattered appearances in other comic books, as well as in mobile games like Transformers Earth Wars, in which he conspired with Starscream to overthrow Megatron. Some stories have paid homage to the clone storyline from the Marvel comic by depicting STRAXUS as the creator of the evil Optimus Prime clone Nemesis Prime. His fondness for cloning also played a role in one of his more unusual appearances, which saw 2 separate incarnations of STRAXUS from different universes team up as the villains of a series of manga released through Japanese retailer E-Hobby between 2016 and 2018. These STRAXUSes were members of the Primus Vanguard, a group of Transformers gathered together from across the multiverse who defended it against evil. Coveting the power of the Matrix sword wielded by the Vanguard's leader, the STRAXUSes betrayed the group, killing them all and stealing the blade. As part of an experiment to create a new generation of biomechanical Transformers, they then used the residual spark energy of the Vanguard's leader held within the sword to clone him, creating Convobat. But Convobat turned on his creators and teamed up with a Primus Vanguard drone named Magna Convoy to reclaim the sword and defeat the villains. As one of the most notable characters created for the Marvel comic, STRAXUS has always been a bit of a cult favourite among older fans who grew up with the series. Even today, he's still definitely a lesser known bot, but the new level of fame he's been taken to by toys and media appearances in the 2010s are continued proof that just about any character from Transformers history can have their turn in the spotlight. And those are the basics on STRAXUS. Are you a fan of his from way back, or is this maybe the first time you're hearing of him? Whichever it is, tell me what you think of him in the comments. There are more Patreon-sponsored episodes coming up soon, so in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss those and more from the world of the Transformers.